Barnstable this morning. Time for our Business Barnstable segment, and this week I welcome the Executive Director of the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board, David Augustinho. David, good morning.
Good morning, Sarah. How the heck are you?
I'm doing great, thank you. How are you?
Pretty good, thanks. Pretty good.
Pretty good. So, David, of course, economic development, workforce development, something, obviously many people are paying attention to these days on the Cape. And, of course, you as the Executive Director of the Workforce Investment Board always paying attention to. And I understand recently you kind of brought together some of the economic development practitioners, specialists across the region to meet with the Workforce Investment Board. Tell me a little bit about how that meeting went or what the reason for putting that meeting together was.
Yeah, well, we started thinking about this. This meeting came about as the Workforce Investment Board went through a strategic planning process last year, and we have a leadership committee as part of our some of our standing committees, and they suggested that a meeting with the economic development practitioners would be beneficial, and it really is. And sorry, I've worked both sides of the street, so to speak. My previous position before coming here was I worked in the Office of Economic Development in Fall River, Massachusetts. So I have a little experience on both sides of the aisle. And one of the things that I've noticed over the years, and my economic development friends have borne out, is that, 10, 15 years ago, that when a company was going to come to an area or even was looking to grow in an area, the first thing they wanted was, what's the tax breaks? Well, how much we have tax incremental financing and other deals that businesses can get. And so that's always what they were talking about and stuff. But then it started to change. About 10 years ago, the first questions out of their mouth was, what's the workforce like? And that's become more and more important to companies, to the big companies especially. I don't know if your viewers might have seen, but Amazon is looking at locating a warehouse in the greater Fall River area.
Interesting.
They're going to hire 1,000 people. And they care very much that the workforce that's available to them matches up with the kind of jobs they have. So workforce development and economic development have always kind of gone hand in hand, but even more so lately. So what we wanted to do is we wanted to make sure that economic development practitioners in the region had some idea of what we can do to assist them as they're helping companies to grow, or if they have new companies coming to their region. So one of the things that we do is Career Opportunities can provide a range of services for them. Of course, our Career Center, and including, like, if a company were going to site here, we can do pre-screening for their hiring. In other words, they just give us a list of what kind of positions they have, what their hiring criteria are, and rather than have their human resources people have to go through and interview hundreds of people or tens of people, we can do it at the Career Center, and we provide that service for free. So what we do is we would whittle down the list down, using their criteria, and then just present them with 2 or 3 candidates for each position, and saving them a lot of time and effort. That's one of the things we can do. We can work with companies to help them to access state funding, especially through the Workforce Training Fund, which one of their targets is to be able to help companies grow.
Absolutely. And really, David, as you say, these two things, workforce and job training, really go hand in hand. It's one thing for companies to have job openings. It's another to make sure that there are people in the region who are qualified to fill those positions.
Yeah, that's our ongoing mission, quite frankly, Sarah. I mean, if you ask, what's the real mission of the Workforce Investment Board? Well, our mission is to make sure that there's an appropriate and available labor force for the businesses in this region. And that includes the businesses from the retail and hospitality businesses up to the Teledyne Benthos or Onset Computer or Hydroid that have much more technical needs. So we work with a lot of entities to try to make sure that happens. And it's in this region, it's a bit of a struggle.
Absolutely, absolutely, and I would think that is one kind of role that the Workforce Investment Board can play, is to help make that less of a struggle.
Absolutely. So we work a lot with educational entities. We're delighted that Bridgewater State University is coming down to the Cape to maybe give us an opportunity to be able to develop some of the higher order information technology people, or even advanced manufacturing people, some engineers perhaps, to be able to grow them here so that we won't have to be importing people from off Cape. The other role that we identified with the economic developers is the Workforce Investment Board. We have a lot of labor market information, a lot of data. And so that's something that economic development planners need also. So we shared data with them at the meeting that we had, and hopefully we'll be able to continue to do that as we go forward.
How does that data help them, David?
Well, it helps them to know. So some of the data that we gave them is like what industries are prevalent in your area. So we broke the areas down depending on where they were coming from. Some were just towns, so we can run a database for the town of Barnstable that shows how many people are working in hospitality, how many people are working in retail, how many people are working in manufacturing, and other areas. So it gives you a chance to analyze your economy, to see where your strengths and weaknesses are, and kind of points you in a direction where if you're making efforts around to attract companies or to help companies grow, you can see exactly what areas would be best for you to put your efforts into. We looked at, for the Outer Cape, we looked at because one of the economic development practitioners there is the Lower Cape Partnership. And so we put together a data package that included all the towns in the Lower Cape and Outer Cape area. And so that gives them a good idea, again, of what the mix is of the businesses, some demographics of the population, see how that matches up with the businesses, that kind of activity. So it helps you to be able to determine where your efforts could best be placed in trying to grow your economy.
Absolutely. So, again, is this the first kind of a meeting that you've had with groups like this, or is this something that has been ongoing with the Workforce Investment Board?
No, this really was the first, though, and because it was such a positive response, we had about 20 economic development planners who attended. We'll continue to do this. We meet from time to time with different economic development entities, because we've always seen our role, the Workforce Investment Board's role, is not only do we make sure that there are people available for the jobs that are here, but we think, especially in this region, that part of our role needs to be to try to help develop some family-sustaining wage jobs here. So we've always taken a very broad role of our work as far as economic development goes. So we've met individually. I mean, I've gone over to Martha's Vineyard in Nantucket and worked with them there doing presentations and stuff like that. But this is the first time that we really called the group together, and the response was very positive, so we'll be doing this again in the future.
Absolutely, and certainly an important thing, I think, for the Cape as we look for ways in which to include, or to improve, rather, that job market. David, anything else about the meeting, about this initiative that you'd like to get out there to our viewers?
No, just that, for us, it was this was the initial meeting. I think because the response was so positive, we'll definitely be looking forward to doing this in the future, and I think it's to it can only benefit the region for the workforce development entities and the economic development entities to be working together to try to grow the economy.
Fantastic. Well, David, I thank you so much, as always, for joining us here on Barnstable this morning. A pleasure to have you on the show, and we will talk with you again sometime soon.
Thank you very much, Sarah.
Thanks, David.
Bye.
Bye-bye. David Augustinho, of course, is the Executive Director of the Cape and Islands Workforce Investment Board. You can visit them online at CIWIB.org. For Barnstable this morning, I'm Sarah.